Hi, I'm Stanley I'm live here with HxGN Live in Las Vegas. I'm going to start off with a video that's about 40 seconds long of an incident in upstate New York in 2014. There's two drivers involved in this incident, Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward, that we'll be talking through as we work through this presentation and talk about photogrammetry and lens distortion and matchmoving. We'll pause there for a sec. So that presentation that I was just showing you, or that video that I was just showing you, this is a press release from the District Attorney's Office in 2014. This is cited by Auto Week. The District Attorney says that videos do not show Tony Stewart driving recklessly in the fatal accident. It goes on to say that while the process was long and emotionally difficult, it allowed for all the facts of the accident to be identified and known. What I want to challenge you with is when the digital evidence is constrained to a point cloud, previously hidden information is now discoverable. We'll work our way through that and I'll show you why. So in today's age, digital evidence is everywhere. We have cell phones collecting photographs and videos. They've even got their own GPS on them. Surveillance cameras, drones, GPS, scene photographs from law enforcement, dash cameras, body-worn cameras, video doorbells, traffic cameras, and even vehicle event data recorders, or the black boxes that we can pull down off of vehicles. So as we talk through this hidden information that is now discoverable through this process, there's three things that I'm going to cover. There's lens distortion, photogrammetry and videogrammetry, and matchmoving or camera matching. So we'll start with lens distortion, and we'll talk a little bit about how that lens distortion is, what that lens distortion is. So lens distortion is the curvature of the lens of any camera or video camera, and certain cameras have various lens curvature to them that's known. Other cameras we don't necessarily know, and we've got to figure it out and pull that out. But what it's going to do is that lens distortion creates a fisheye or a barrel distortion, as shown in this photograph. I'll walk through a couple of cases that we've worked on, and as I progress through these cases, I'll show how the lens distortion and then the subsequent topics it was applied to these situations. So this first one, I always ask, well, how tall is this guy? I'm guessing that you don't think he's 7 foot. I would guess that you don't even think that he's 6 foot. Let's remove that fisheye lens from this. And this also has a little bit of photogrammetry to it. But the gentleman on the left, his height is actually 6'4". So when you correct for that, you can see that makes a drastic difference in what is perceived in this photograph. In this instance, we were actually we were tasked with figuring out exactly where this rifle was pointed at this point in time. And so went through the process. First thing was lens distortion and remove that. When you go through that lens distortion, you actually see that the staircase is now, or when you correct for lens distortion, you actually see that the staircase is now viewable on the right side of the photograph. I'll take you through case 2. In here you can see the red lines and the blue lines, red lines horizontal, blue lines vertical, and you can see the distortion of this scene. This was taken from a dash cam of a police cruiser as they drove up to an incident. When we show you the post lens distortion and correction, you can see that the gentleman in the center of that photograph does appear to be further away. That can have an impact on your investigation and what you're trying to find and present when you're trying to present it accurately. It can also have an impact on how the images are pulled into the point clouds, which we'll get into here in a minute. So that's lens distortion. Let's move into photogrammetry and videogrammetry. So photogrammetry, videogrammetry is the scientific measurement, or the science of attaining accurate measurements from photographs or videos. The concept dates back to at least Da Vinci when he was referencing it in 1480. All things transmit through image of the eye by pyramidal lines. That's the lines that come in as you think about perception away from you. There's angles that come into your eye. Once those, so we want to correct for those, or we want to understand that, and then and use that to our advantage. Today, with point clouds, a lot of this is being done in the background, but it's based on science. So once the photos and videos are accurate, then they can be tied to a point cloud, which is ultimately where we're headed. Does anybody recognize this? It's Dealey Plaza down in Dallas, Texas. It's where JFK was shot in 1963. Obviously, photogrammetry was used in that incident to recreate and understand the shooter's location and even evaluate the multiple shooter theories and so forth that exist. So that's photogrammetry. Let's move into matchmoving and camera matching and how the hidden becomes discoverable. So back to case one. In this situation, camera matching is establishing two-dimensional points that can be seen in a video, which is just a framework. It's multiple frames of multiple single camera pictures of a frame that are linked. And so we're trying to create select two-dimensional points that are identifiable in both the video and the point cloud. And this is the process of where we're going through and doing that. So in this case, as I mentioned, we wanted to know where that firearm was specifically pointed. We were provided with about 12 to 15 seconds of surveillance camera footage, and this was the most relevant still frame that we've presented here. And then we went in after the fact and generated a point cloud and scanned both the interior of this residence as well as the exterior. When we put all of that together, and we've established where that firearm is pointed, and now we constrain that to the point cloud. You can see on the right side here the photographs that show the additional point cloud data that was downrange from the backyard of this residence. You can see that the firearm is pointed, in this area, which in this specific case was not where the placards 1, 2, 3, and 4, the yellow placards, are located in the bottom right there. Particularly important and had huge implications on the outcome of this trial. Ultimately, that was the result of constraining that video and that single frame to the point clouding and finding the specific alignment of that rifle. Let's talk through a second situation, case two. Case two is a domestic dispute that police were responding to, and we were provided with 2 body cams from the officers and 1 dash camera. We were also provided with, or we obtained, a point cloud subsequent to the event where we aligned and matched all of this information up. So you can see, before I jump into the video, that sequences all of the videos, the dash cams and the body cams, or body cams and the dash cam. You can see the correction that we've already done on the camera. You can also see on this dash cam as this cruiser pulls in. You can also see how the camera how you can see beyond the extents of what was in view of that dash cam. You're not going to see, obviously, you're not going to see any moving people or anything that's outside of that. That was not collected as data. But you can put this into context and move this camera through the scene, through the point cloud scene, and understand exactly. You can understand more information beyond the extents of the camera. So these are the 3 videos that we were provided with, synced up in time to watch this instance. I'll let this roll here a little bit. But ultimately, these officers come in and out of screen as they move towards the individual that was involved in this incident. Here's the dash cam rolling in, and we've got it integrated into the point cloud. Now, this is what the officer's seen on the dash cam, and we can also see the outside of that. So we have knowledge of, okay, there's vehicles on the side of us, there's a building to the right. We understand a little bit more context of what the officers involved in this situation experienced. And this is just a graphic of us showing a camera as it moves through space, and then an overhead aerial of where these officers are once the point cloud has been generated. What's really interesting about this is once you've got the scene developed, then you can place the camera in any location to evaluate, the circumstances of the incident. So you can understand from an aerial perspective or from a side perspective or an officer's perspective what they may have seen, or even from the victim's perspective in this situation. So this is case number 3. This is the race that I led with in the video that you see in the beginning. We did a scan of the racetrack, and multiple scans using a Leica. This is the RTC 360, I believe, that was used on this case, and and to develop that scan. This vehicle here is an exemplar vehicle that we had a scan of. And this is just us showing some the photogrammetry that we were doing on it, the camera matching, and then placing that camera or placing that vehicle into the scene of the incident. So, or into the this Leica scan data. So from behind, now we're correlating the location of that vehicle into the point cloud from the camera that observed this incident, and then we can start to do the camera matching on the entire incident. So each of those little green and pink squares are points that have been identified in both the video and the point cloud, so that we can align everything and run this through the software and process to figure out exactly what took place in this incident. In this case, what was of most note and question was, what is the depth of these vehicles? Where are they in relationship to the viewer, to this camera? And so once those are put into a point cloud and calibrated, now we can see an aerial view of how all of these vehicles moved relative, from an aerial perspective rather than a long perspective looking down. And you might have a little bit of a different perspective on the findings of that case after looking down on this. So as we discussed earlier, you can also, once these point clouds are developed and you've got everything scientifically accurate and lined up, now you can move in and you can present this from the perspective that you'd like to present it from. So that was the perspective from Kevin Ward and what he would have seen as the vehicle moved towards him. We can look at it from behind. You can look at it from anywhere, but this is the perspective from down low on the track from behind to see how the movement happened and even the relationship to the blue car that went through before the red car. So the findings of the case were ultimately that Stewart's vehicle's speed, acceleration, angle, and path differed from all of the others. Prior to impact, Stewart applied his throttle, causing his car to drift up the track. There were many other findings that we came to, but these were the key ones and that I wanted to present today. So if we circle back to the original DA's opinion on this, he stated, while the process was long and emotionally difficult, fully understandable, it allowed for all of the facts to be identified and known. Camera matching, at least if it was It should have been available at that time. We did it shortly thereafter. Camera matching the point clouds provides additional clarity on all of the facts. So, in hindsight, would the headline change if the DA had this opinion and the investigative team had this information to evaluate to evaluate the case? There's the documentary that's an 80 or 90 minute documentary that was generated that goes through the entire process. There's a lot of interviews of how we did the actual aggregation of the data, the point clouds, the camera matching and everything that's been turned into. We're not associated with it. It's just a documentary that they've generated. So I've covered how the hidden becomes discoverable and the tools that we've used to get there. So lens distortion, correcting for it, photogrammetry and videogrammetry, how that's behind everything that we do. The camera matching, which is taking point clouds to the next level and being able to analyze scientifically and accurately the video footage now that we can tie them to physical, tangible points in space. So I'll leave you with this. When digital evidence is constrained to a point cloud, previously hidden information is now discoverable. I think that's the key point that I want to make sure that we get across today. So thank you for your time.